This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where, yes, business owners share their wisdom. It's short and to the point to respect people's time. And because we know transforming possibility happens really fast and it leads to lasting results. So let's get to it. In a few sentences, question number one, John, tell me who you are and what you do.
Well, you know, Brad, how so many coaches and consultants or even professional services like lawyers or financial advisors, they're all drowning and struggling because they're in a sea of sameness. Nobody can remember what the difference is. So I'm known as the pitch whisperer, and I help them learn how to tell stories that make them not only magnetic but memorable, because whoever tells the best story is the one that gets hired, and after working with me, their business takes off.
Love it. Whisper some wisdom to me, John, throughout this podcast and to the listeners. I absolutely love that. Was so clear. I'm hoping that we're going to dive into that a little bit in the next few moments.
Yes, I actually help people with their little elevator pitches. I call them elevator stories. The whole goal is to intrigue people enough to say, oh, tell me more. Wait, I know what a horse whisperer and a dog whisperer is. What's a pitch whisperer? It doesn't matter what you say, but we think if you put something in there and people can see themselves in the story, yeah, I'm drowning in a sea of sameness. Everyone thinks I'm just like everybody else and what's the cheapest price. How can I get out of that? It's very clear about who you help and what problem you solve, and then people are intrigued enough to want to know more and have a conversation. That's the whole goal.
Absolutely. I am certain that anyone listening or watching has likely heard that person that just says blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Snore. Oh, sorry. So you pulled them out of that sea of sand.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned clear. A good elevator story, or any story actually, is clear, concise, and compelling. And I know you like the concise part because you've got a short podcast. And compelling is when you use words that tug at people's heartstrings so that they open their purse strings.
I love it. You're dropping it down already. John, question number two, what's the best thing about being in business? I know you're a seasoned business owner, so I'm really excited to hear your take on what the best thing is about being in business.
The best thing for me personally is to see the impact I have on people's lives. Whether it's a big company like Olympus Medical that hired me to speak to their 200 sales teams on how to tell better stories to win new business, and then transformed that into a repository map of all 200 stories where people can break down silos and make introductions, and it became an onboarding tool. So the impact of a talk and a workshop and working with people in an online experience has been really rewarding to see people say, oh, it's even helping me in my personal life to tell better stories.
I so relate to this on the corporate level, but also on the personal level. And that's why I love what you do. Truly, truly love and respect the impact that you're creating in the world today. It personally changed my life and how I connect with people. So I love what you teach and what you stand for. So thanks, great to have you on here, John. Question number three. This is one of my favorite questions as a system guy. We hear from other business owners. They're getting so much business, and it's I don't like using the word crazy, but it's crazy because when you get really zeroed in, when you're able to tell some stories, when you really get clear on your ideal client, all those things, like the business just comes, it starts to flow. So we hear from a lot of businesses that are getting so much business that the chaos sometimes is causing overwhelm. Can you share your thoughts on that subject or any experiences that you've walked through?
Yes, if you don't have a system in place to scale your business, the first thing that's going to break is you. And that's why you want to try and get out of just trading time for money one-on-one. And in my case, I do group coaching now or speak to groups. And then if somebody really wants some attention, then obviously there's a premium investment that goes along with that. So I personally would rather work with fewer people at a deeper level at a higher price point than the volume of low price point and trying to be everything to everybody.
There's no way I could love that more. Quality and depth, those things in conjunction with one another are so impactful. Love to hear you love to hear you sharing that, John. Question number 4. This is a fun question. What other successful business owners, no, successful business owners like yourself, of course, John, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
Well, Dr. Mark Goldston is a mentor and a friend and an expert. He's spoken in Russia on the power of empathy and listening. He's written many best-selling books. His book's called Just Listen. He has a new one out called Why Cope When You Can Heal, written for first responders. So he really has great insights into how to take your listening empathy skills and make it a business tool.
Absolutely love that. Empathy, so important, and I don't think we ever end learning about that either. It's a fascinating topic and well needed in the world today. So thank you for highlighting him, and I look forward to connecting with him. John, are you ready? I suspect you are. Question number 5. What piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners?
You know, I talk about this in my TEDx talk, which is be the lifeguard of your own life. Unlike in a hurricane, no one's going to come rescue you if you don't evacuate. And so I think the key here is we constantly have to be growing and expanding our comfort zone. It can't be, it doesn't stay the same. It gets smaller and smaller, or we're expanding it. And so we need to keep learning and embracing disruption as opposed to trying to avoid it. And the other big piece of advice is dealing with rejection. And my tip there is never reject yourself, even if you get a no. Because I used to do that. I'd play it on my head. I'd say, oh, well, maybe another person could have gotten that sale, or maybe my product or service isn't as good as I thought it was. Don't reject you or what you're selling. And no now doesn't mean no forever. Just remember that who you are is bigger than any one no that happens.
Love it. On those 2 points, John, so I know you've been in business, so you've worked with large companies, and you've done, you've been you're seasoned, you've been at this for a while. So 2 things I'd like to dive in. So someone just starting out, what advice might you give them? So especially rejection is huge with inner circles, family, these things that as entrepreneurs and the tribe that is here all the time is like starting entrepreneurs, startups, and then seasoned. So let's go back to the startups. If you were just starting again, what kind of advice, what kind of wisdom would help? What have you learned? You know, that age-old question, my 20-year-old self, right?
Yes. Well, the first thing from a business standpoint would be make sure that who you're talking to has the money to buy what you're selling. They may need it, but can't afford it. So make sure that that has been thought out really in depth. I know originally I was focusing on helping founders of startups with their pitch to get funded, but they couldn't afford to hire me. So then I shifted to speaking to sales teams who are selling big ticket items and need to close more sales and have money to hire me as a speaker and a trainer and take my course, etc. So I would say that is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is they go, oh, people want this, I have it, and oh, they can't afford it. So that is, you can have the best thing in the world, and if you're talking to people who want it but they can't buy it, you're never going to make it. So that is another. And the other part from going from corporate America into working for yourself is your expenses are going to be much higher than they were when you were an employee. You got to pay for your own insurance, your own software, all kinds of maintenance on our website, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot, just because if I make this much money as an entrepreneur and I made that much money as an employee, I'll be fine. Probably not. You'll need to make more.
I love that. I love that you highlighted that too. I made 50, I'm throwing random numbers for anybody listening, but I made $50, when I was a corporate. So I'm going to charge, $50 an hour. No. So I love it. That is definitely a learning piece and part of the journey. And then with regard to rejection, because I'm glad that you highlighted that as well, that runs deep. And so a lot of people I know you work directly with sales teams, and a lot of people are afraid. They don't want to be salesy. There's all these rejection things. What kind of advice would you give people if they're experiencing that, or if they're, fearing that? Any thoughts come to mind, John?
Yes. Well, one of the biggest reasons people say no is because you haven't touched on all three points. You know, the myth is you have to get people to know, like, and trust you before they buy from you. And that causes people to behave in such a way that they push out information. Oh, do you know enough about me and my product? And let me give you one more fact. And so I flip the script and tell people you need to start with trust. Build the trust first. It's a gut thing. In fact, the handshake was to show we didn't have a weapon in our hand. Then it moves to our heart. Do I like you? You show empathy. And then it moves to the head. People have this unspoken question. Will this work for me? They might trust and like you, but if they can't see it working for them, they're not going to buy. And there's where the power of storytelling comes in, because when you learn how to tell a story that people see themselves in, then they want to go on the journey with you, and you're not getting rejected nearly as much because you're telling a story and inviting them to go on a journey that's not pushy, and you've already tugged at the heartstrings if you told the story properly.
That's what I love. And what I love about your experience, it's the heart, not the head. I love that you highlighted that. So powerful. And yet a lot of people don't still today, still don't know the tactics of how to do that or how to go about that. So powerful, John. And I think, I don't want to jump the gun. I'm going to ask another question before we get this, but I think you're going to give them, hang with us, because I think you're going to give them the route and some tips to be able to do that before we're all done here.
I do. I have a free quiz that you can answer just a few questions about who you help and what problem you solve. And my system will send you a script draft of your new elevator story instead of an elevator pitch that will make people intrigued and want to get to know you. And all you have to do is go to my website, which is John Livesay, L-I-V as in Victor, ESAY.com/free elevator story.
Love it.
If you can't remember all that, just remember, go to my website and you'll see a sidebar. You can tab on it and answer some questions. And we all need to improve our elevator stories. And so here's a free way to get you going on really getting specific on who you're helping and what problem you're solving. And more importantly, what life is like for them after they've worked with you or bought your product.
Love it. And you and I have had a conversation around this, and I've seen it, and it's really powerful. I really want to encourage you to, there's going to be a link down below. I want to encourage you to click that link and connect with John, because that's some powerful stuff, John. John, we could talk about business all day, every day. I know we could. You and I are both driven. I'm so glad to be connected with you. Let's shift gears for a moment. I'd love to hear about your most fun vacation spot. Where have you been that you loved, that you had a lot of fun?
I went to Alaska and got to go on a dog sled ride on a glacier.
Wow.
The first time I tried to do that, I booked my cruise to Alaska, and then there was a huge bad rainstorm, and they said, I'm sorry, the seas are too rough. We can't get to the shore. We're going to have to cancel. So 5 years later, I went back, and I went to register. Oh, we're sold out. But you could be on a waiting list. Then that morning, you made the waiting list. Oh, thank goodness. Then you get to shore, you get in a car and you drive out to a helicopter pad, and the guy goes, oh, you're so lucky. Yesterday it was too windy. We couldn't take off. And then you get in a helicopter, and then you land on this amazing glacier. They've got an American flag flying like you're on the moon or something. Hundreds of dogs, people living on this glacier with no internet for weeks at a time. And as I stood there being pulled by the dog sled, I thought, what an exhilarating moment, and all of the things that had to line up to be able to get this experience. So for me, it wasn't just the thrill of being on a glacier and being pulled by dogs like that and meeting those dogs, but this lesson of when you really want an experience or anything in your life, you gotta keep finding a way and the tenacity to keep doing it.
Love that. You got me on the edge of the seat. Where do I sign up? But what I really love about that is you just told a beautiful story and experience. Notice the words there. I want to highlight that. An experience that you had where everything lined up because you didn't give up. And I love how you turned that into a great teaching point or a great share point. John, I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you for the investment of your time and just being here and sharing and dropping some of your wisdom. I know you drop that everywhere. It's great to have you on this show, and you dropping some here as well.
Thanks, Brad. It's been a blast. And if anybody gets nervous about any big pitch coming up, you got butterflies in your stomach, Don't try to get rid of them. Just try to get those butterflies in your stomach to fly in formation like they are now if you're watching the video. Because when you get out of your head worrying about whether people like you or not, then you're in the moment.
Love it. Present, heart-centered. Love it. John, thank you. Thank you so much. What's the website? Again, I know you dropped it once, but repetition is the mother skill, right? So what's the website, the best place that someone can find you?
John Livesay, Liv as in Victor, ESAY.com, and then /free elevator story to get that quiz, to get your little free script going of how to improve your elevator story versus an elevator pitch.
Love it. As soon as we finish, go grab it now. John, thanks again. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners making right 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 figures. Look, it's not all about the money. Yes, it's about the money, but it's not all about the money. It's about sharing their wisdom globally, heart-centered, like he said, and creating impact. Thanks for joining us today. See you soon.
It was fun.